grab a stool, come gather around the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends. Before we get rolling, I wish we had timpani like on the old Jerry Lewis telethon. And we go to the tote board. I'm pleased to announce that we have a new affiliate, KDET AM. That's 9:30 a.m. KDET, and that's in Shreveport, Louisiana. And they're going to start carrying the Conspiracy Show Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m. So thank you to KDET 9:30 a.m. and welcome aboard. Just a reminder, my new podcast, The Rock and Roll Twilight Zone, launched this past Wednesday. Hope you'll check it out. New episodes every Wednesday, and you can subscribe at Apple Podcast or Google Play, etc. And don't forget my other new podcast, Conspiracy Unlimited. New episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you can subscribe everywhere or just go to conspiracyunlimitedpodcast.com. A musician, UFO ET experiencer, Kevin Estrella, is standing by to talk about pyramids on Mars. That's the name of his group. Pyramidion Sound Healing. Pyramidion Sound Healing. Now, I remember Pyramid Power back in the early 70s. Remember the Toronto Maple Leafs back then? Red Kelly was the coach, and he thought he would try Pyramid Power to help the team. It didn't do much, but I am far more optimistic this time around. So we'll talk about Pyramid Power in a sense, Pyramidion Sound Healing. And Kevin will also share some of his UFO experiences and his sincere belief that ET is here now among us. We'll talk hybrids. A second hour of this transmission will go live to the Christmas house in Racine, Wisconsin. No, they're not selling Christmas trinkets there, as far as I know. Maybe, I don't know. But reportedly, this is a very haunted location. And Carolyn Clapper is an evidential medium, a psychic, and a medical intuitive, and she's there. Now, I've been warned that there's a lot of activity in this old Victorian house. And so for those of you watching tonight's presentation on the YouTube channel, the live YouTube stream, who knows? We may get to see some sort of paranormal activity, poltergeist activity right in front of our eyes. Incidentally, if you haven't already checked out the live YouTube stream, we do it almost every week. So you really must subscribe if you haven't. It adds a whole new dimension to this old radio show. And we invite you again to subscribe. We're over the 7,000 subs, 7,050 something, still looking to climb that mountain to 10,000. The first 10,000 is always the toughest. Now, we're going to hear musician Kevin Estrella in a moment and a sample of his Pyramidion sound healing. But before that, as per usual, let me introduce the boys in my band. He's on the other side of the glass, twisting the knobs, dials, and the doodads. On the Flying V Gibson guitar, technical producer Ian Robertson. On this side of the glass, here in studio with me, on the Rickenbacker bass guitar, occasionally the theremin story producer Albert Vinzel. And on the Hammond B3, maybe later we'll get him to play Green Onions. Feature producer, live stream producer Ryan White. Now, before we get started, again, lots of announcements tonight, but this is important. Ian Robertson. This is very exciting. Ian Robertson, you have some exciting news. I hear you're going to be, get this, on the same bill as the killer. That's right, Jerry Lee Lewis.
The wild man himself.
You're going to be on the same bill as Jerry Lee Lewis in Las Vegas with your band Grease Marks.
Yeah, that's it.
Holy smokes,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, along with legends, Dwayne Eddy and the Stray Cats, all part of Viva Las Vegas, the Rockabilly Weekender.
At the Rockabilly Weekender, and when is this happening?
It's April 19th to the 22nd.
So Grease Marks will be on the stage as part of this Rockabilly Festival in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we have 2 set times.
Do you think you'll get to meet the killer?
Hopefully. I got my 45s ready for him to sign. So
And Brian Setzer?
Yeah.
From the Stray Cats?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be 4 nights of staying up every night, all night.
Congratulations.
Yeah, wild records.
You, my friend, are just like, you're a rocket ship ready to take off. First, you cut an album out in Los Angeles, and now this. I'm so happy and proud of you.
Thanks, Richard. It means a lot.
Well, it's an amazing accomplishment. Please say hello to the killer for me, if you will. All right. Not many musicians have captured the interests of off world visitors like Kevin Estrella. Kevin is no stranger to the UFO phenomena with when an interdimensional craft flew within 100 yards of him back in August of 2014. His sighting was investigated and verified by MUFON, that's the Mutual UFO Network. He's had contact at least 4 times with craft of unearthly origin. Kevin Estrella is a world class musician of the instrumental rock band Pyramids on Mars, and their self titled debut album came out in 2013, then a follow up album in 2015. Kevin has been welcomed deep into the UFO community after having his own first hand encounter with something not of this world. He's now begun speaking publicly and has been a featured guest on over 24 UFO radio talk shows. He comes to ArtistFirst Radio, which is we'll find out about that, to introduce guests who have been on board alien craft and have had direct contact with extraterrestrial beings. Kevin will tell us a little bit, perhaps, about alien human hybrids as well. And again, we'll talk about Pyramidion sound healing. Kevin Estrella, welcome to the Conspiracy Show. How are you?
Richard, I'm so glad to be back. Oh, man, it's an honor to be on your show.
Well, Pyramidion sound healing. First of all, let's talk about that. What is Pyramidion sound healing? We have a sample we'll play in a few moments, but you just describe it. You describe it for us.
Sure, absolutely. I interviewed Campbell Foster back last year for the Alien Cosmic exhibition that took place in Toronto. And he is the inventor of the Pyramidion. It's a computational feedback synthesis.
I remember seeing that because I was there, I think a couple years ago, and I think I saw him when it was in Brantford.
Okay, yeah, because he builds these pyramidions. So you probably would have saw these pyramidions, like these pyramids made of copper that people sit inside and meditate. And he had his set up there. And I had some incredible experiences with that too, because they're very powerful, and the energies inside them are very powerful. But this Pyramidion completely just blew my mind, because I didn't know what it was until I actually went over to his place to rehearse for this sound healing. So you have to understand, my first introduction to the Pyramidion was just doing a radio interview with him, and then he did a meditative. We went through a meditative thing over the phone, and he had the Pyramidion playing in the background. This strange sound, droning sound that was so hypnotic. I'm just like in a trance, and my consciousness was changing to like an alpha state, and I was like completely taken off the world. And he's going through a walking meditation. But okay, I didn't understand what the Pyramidion was. I didn't know where the sound was coming from.
Exactly. And yeah, how does it generate it?
This is the crazy thing. So I go over to his place, because we were doing this rehearsal for this show, and I still didn't even know what the Pyramidion was. So what I saw on the floor was this frame of this pyramid made of metal, and I'm like, okay, I wonder what this thing is. And then he says, yeah, we're gonna hook up the Pyramidion. I'm like, well, what is that? He says, it's a computational feedback synthesis machine. And then he points over to the wall, and there's this huge disc we put on top of this pyramid. And then he puts a microphone underneath it and a speaker, and it's making its own, it's resonating its own sound. It's creating its own sound, and all he's doing is just feedbacking the sound through itself. And it was crazy. It's absolutely amazing sound that sounded like a Moog analog synthesizer from the 70s, but it was just out of this world. It was beautiful. I'm like,
and is it always emitting the same frequency?
No, it doesn't. See, he was able to control certain tones through a board that he has. So he had tones programmed in, like, F, G, A, B, C, D, a scale. But it was all tuned. It's all tuned to 432 hertz, which is very important, because that's the natural tuning of the Fibonacci natural tuning.
And what is that note? That 432 hertz.
432 hertz. Well, if standard our music that we listen to today, they have a standard. The standard tuning is A equals 440 hertz.
Okay, so
that becomes the standard tuning, and then all other notes are tuned from that frequency of the A note being 440 hertz.
So it's somewhere what
Well,
between a G and an A?
what's that?
So where would 432 be? Somewhere between a G and an A, or an F and an A?
Yeah, it's halfway. It's halfway between. It's halfway between G sharp and A.
Ah.
So
Okay.
it's basically it's 8 hertz out. But the question is, does this make a difference? It makes all the difference in the world, because that is 432 hertz is the natural tuning of the universe. So when you start to understand, we can do a whole entire program on 432 hertz. We're not going to go there. It's basically, it's a very important frequency too. That's actually the natural tuning that all instruments should be tuned to, because that's a frequency that we vibrate best at. And there's a whole science behind it. And there's a whole crazy. It's related to everything from sacred geometry to the speed of light to the diameter of the sun and the moon. They're all actual ratios of 432 hertz. Even the zodiac, the whole zodiac cycle is 12 times 60, which equals 4,302, whatever. It's all everything's connected. It's all connected.
432 hertz. So this
Well,
pyramid made out of copper is
yes.
producing this sound at 432 hertz. And do we have a handle yet on how it's producing it?
What it's doing is, it's because of the pyramid itself, the frame. All the disc is doing is it's amplifying the sound of the pyramid. The frame of the bottom of the pyramid is based upon when he built it. It's the exact geometry of the Cheops Great Pyramids in Egypt.
Obviously, the scale is different, but the ratios, you're saying, the ratios are the
Well,
same.
the ratio is correct. Even like the bottom, length and width is actually a ratio of the diameter of the Earth. It's all based upon, he figured it all out.
Okay, Kevin, I have to jump in here. When we come back, we'll hear a little bit about this. We'll hear the pyramidion sound healing, some of these tones that you've created, and you can explain how this all works. Kevin Estrella, musician from Pyramids on Mars. Back with more in a moment on The Conspiracy Show.
Keeping an eye on the New World Order. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio. the truth. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. Just a reminder, coming up in the second hour of this transmission, we'll go live to reportedly a very haunted location where a professional medium, psychic, medical intuitive Carolyn Clapper is standing by. Will we see something captured on the live webcam at this? It's called the Christmas House in Racine, Wisconsin. I don't know, but you'll have to tune in and find out. Right now, we are talking with a musician, guitarist with Pyramids on Mars, and Kevin Estrella is here telling us about Pyramidion sound healing, and these sounds are generated by this Pyramidion. Well, it's a pyramid that's been created by. What was this gentleman's name again, Kevin?
Campbell Foster.
Campbell Foster. Okay, so it's made out of copper, and it's creating this tone at 432 hertz.
Well, we made sure that it was like that the tuning was to 432 hertz, but we're able to actually change that we're actually able to play it as an instrument because he's able to generate a tone through it, so it'll be a drone tone that will resonate at that say a frequency of A, but the sound that is based off it is not stagnant. It's not the same.
Okay.
It changes.
All right.
It does change.
So what do you now? You replicate this sound with your guitar? Is that how it works?
No, I was just playing my guitar along to the Pyramidion because the Pyramidion, it sounds like an analog synthesizer.
So does that become almost like a carrier wave then?
Yeah, it's like a carrier wave. Yeah, and Campbell was able to control the note because he would bring in a note through his board there, swinging a note, so he can change the note from F to G to A, and I'd be able to play along with it. But the sound that's coming from the Pyramidion, it's like there's more harmonic overtones that are taking place, and other frequencies like fifths and thirds and ninths will come in there, and it builds up like a chord.
Is this what we refer to sometimes as the music of the spheres?
This would be the music of the spheres. This would be the music of the pyramid.
Okay.
This is what's happening is that it's amplifying the sound of the pyramid. It's self-generating.
And what are the
sound that you hear coming from the pyramid?
What are the healing qualities of this sound? Do we know?
Well, it's when you hear it, it's like a drone, and it's like meditation. It's almost like a Tibetan chant. When you hear it, it has the same effect as like a Tibetan chant.
Okay, let's hear a little bit of it. Ian, can you play some of that for us? This is Kevin Estrella, and playing around with the sound of the pyramid. All right, let's just bring that under a little bit there, if you could, Ian. You could just keep it sort of in the background a little bit. Yeah, that is very meditative, strangely meditative.
Yeah, actually, just before the show, I emailed you a link to a remastered of the Pyramidion of itself. You should really play that. You'll really get a real intense sound of what it actually is, what it really sounds like.
I see that email. Yeah, let me just forward that over to Ian, and maybe at some point before the hour. we can get to that as well. I don't know if
Yeah,
we'll have
because
time.
that is mind blowing. When you hear that, then you really have the experience of what the pyramiding is about.
All right, so I've just sent that over to you, Ian. If you can check that out, if we have time to get to it, that'd be great. All right, so when we call these sort of healing tones or so forth, I mean, what are people reporting that these tones can do for them? I mean, it's obviously it has kind of a meditative and calming effect. Does it lower? I mean, is there a marked decrease in blood pressure or heart rate or anything like that?
Well, when you're in the room with the pyramidion and you hear it just sound healing is it does calm you. It goes right through you, not your body, but it goes through your whole consciousness and it changes your consciousness. Like when you understand telepathy carries best when you're in an alpha state. So it's when you're in when your mind is in an alpha, creating alpha waves, which is kind of the same period of, like, if when you're creative, when you're drawing something, or you're playing an instrument, or if you're having a shower, or you're driving your car, you get into when your brain waves slow down just a bit. That is the highest telepathic state, when you are connected to the collective consciousness. Now, and when you understand that star nations are all telepathic, you're actually tuning into the collective consciousness. So that's why people meditate. That's why Tibetans meditate, and they'll hum and drone at 4:32, is because they're getting themselves into a higher state of consciousness, which is connecting to the collective consciousness.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize. I'm a kind of I wouldn't say a huge fan. I mean, I've been exposed to a lot of it, but that Tibetan throat singing. And people, when if you've seen the movie, I think it was 7 Years in Tibet and so forth, there's some of that, and you can see it all over YouTube. Tibetan throat singing, I think it's called. So that is at 432 hertz as well. That's fascinating. And when you're sitting inside the pyramid, and this tone, this frequency is altering your brain waves and so forth, does that allow you, because you are an experiencer?
Yes.
Are you at that point in telepathic communication with ET?
Yes, I am, very much. This is something that I've learned, and through my own music, I started to realize more, because when I play, I'm in a much higher state, in a telepathic state, and I'm a little bit more tuned to it, and I'm learning more about my abilities and my telepathic abilities. And I'm also in contact with certain star nations, and they have been teaching me and verifying that, yes, you can actually communicate telepathically instruments, because it's all about intent. So if you're putting it, when you're putting your intent in behind it, that it carries on an emotional wavelength, and that's why certain musicians, when they play, there's so much more emotion behind their playing. Because of their connection, like Jimi Hendrix is like that. His playing was just beyond the all time, and his connection. David Gilmour, for me, is the guitar player Pink Floyd. He can play one note that is more penetrating and emotional than most guitar players will play in their entire life.
Well,
so it's all about intent.
Many musicians have talked about how the song comes to them from nowhere, and they feel kind of sheepish about even taking credit for it. They describe themselves as being merely an antenna. Is that how it works for you with your band Pyramids on Mars? Do you feel that you are just the conduit, and this music that you are ostensibly composing is actually coming from beyond the stars?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me to take credit for any of my music, because I don't feel like I'm writing it. It's kind of like almost like a color by numbers child book, where it's like, the frame is there, and it's like, okay, obviously, the guitar is going to play this, and the bass is going to play this, and the drums are going to play this, and before I knew it, the song is like done. It's written. It's done by itself, and I kind of feel like I was just a catalyst. And but it even goes further for me, because I've actually gotten literal song downloads in dreams, where I didn't. My first song on my second CD, called Dream Division, I didn't write that song. it was actually given to me in a dream download. And my experiences are actually written about in Grant Cameron's new book that's coming out on musical downloads and inspiration. Several of my stories and my own personal accounts are in this book.
So how does this download happen? You're in a dream state, and you have, is it similar to I'm trying to remember the individual at Rendlesham Forest who actually touched the craft and received a download of a binary code. Was it Jim Peniston? Is that how it happens for you? How does this telepathic download happen for you?
It's funny. It was just like watching a movie. Let's say, for instance, the song Dream Division. I had this dream where I'm watching TV of some MTV guy interviewing Joe Satriani, and he's sitting at a console in a studio. And Joe Satriani is this, he's this instrumental guitar player who
sure. You've been compared to him.
Yeah, I've been compared to him. So he's sitting here, talking about his new album coming out, and the guy's asking, "Well, do you have any new tracks that you can play for us?" And these stuff is, yeah, actually, we got some track, some bass tracks that we laid down here. We'll play it for you. And he pulls up some consoles. And he starts playing this song, and I'm listening to it, going, "Wow, that sounds really cool. I like how this introduction's coming in." And this is lucid dreaming, by the way. But at this point now, I realize I'm conscious of the fact that I'm dreaming, because I realize, wait a second, Joe never wrote this song. This song doesn't exist. I wake myself up out of the dream. I go down to the studio and I start tracking out the song that I heard in my dream. I didn't write it. I literally, it's like if you went into your car, turn on the stereo, turn on the radio, and you're hearing a song, and somebody turns to you and says, "That song doesn't exist. Here, it's yours."
Right. Yeah, I've heard artists describe that time and time again. This is almost like an updated version of the Crossroads story, except it wasn't Old Scratch that taught you to play. It was E.T.
Yeah.
When did this all start for you? Take us back to your first experience. There was what you described as an interdimensional craft. You were about 100? Was it 100 feet or 400 feet away from this thing?
It was about 100 yards. 100 yards away.
Give us the sort of the chronology. When and give us the who, why, what, and where and when.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it was August 21st, 2014, 10:30 at night. I remember exactly when and where it was. So I step out onto my deck, and I live in Hamilton, Ontario. It's a city of 500,000. I live in a very urban area of a subdivision right off of Upper James. So I'm really literally dab smack right in the middle of the city.
Right.
And so my neighbor has this tree. My neighbor on my right has this tree that stands about 100, maybe 100 feet tall. And so then this object starts coming out from within 7 seconds of me stepping on my deck. It was almost like it was waiting for me. This object starts coming out from behind my neighbor's tree, and it was only 100 yards away. And at first I thought it was a meteor because it was orangish red, kind of glowing like coals, but it had this kind of smoke that was kind of streaming off the top of it and along the bottom of it, and kind of puffing out the back of it. But it wasn't smoke; it was something else. I couldn't figure it out. It would be almost 6 months later that I would finally realize that what I was looking at was it was covered in plasma. This is what was giving it this strange look. This object was in plasma. So by the time it comes out in full view from behind the tree, it was a disc. It was a perfectly nice, smooth disc. Kind of went curved along the top, curved exactly along the bottom, perfectly symmetrical, and it's moving across my backyard. And I'm going, what the heck is that? Because I didn't know what I was looking at, because I've seen UFOs in movies, and TV, UFOs or whatever, YouTube, but nothing was like what I saw. Because the biggest thing that caught my attention about this thing that would made it completely realizing that this has to be some kind of exotic technology that is not earthbound is because this object was two-dimensional. And what I mean by that, it looked like a solar eclipse. If you look at a solar eclipse, it looks like a hole in the sky.
Right.
It's got height, it's got depth, it's got height, width, but no depth.
Right.
It's like a hole. And that's what this thing looked like. It was It looks like a homeless guy. There was no depth to it. It's just like, it was orangish red, kind of tie-dye-ish, moving across the sky. It had plasma streaming along the top and bottom of it. Went across a distance of only my backyard, and then it started making its way south towards Bimbrook. And then as it's simultaneously as it's moving away and it has more of its back towards me, the light from that was radiating off the thing, the plasma stream, was dissipating and dying until the point where this object had no light at all. It was
Okay.
just like a dark object.
All right, Kevin, let's pick this up on the other side. Kevin Estrella, musician, contactee. Pyramids on Mars is the band, and we'll come back and pick up on this conversation in mere moments right here on The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Don't go away.
Exploring theories, uncovering facts, and offering a different view of the universe. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio. To speak live, call 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740. Corporations, governments, and sometimes entire civilizations. What goes up must come down, and it lands on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Kevin Estrella is with us. Pyramids on Mars is the band. And this music, your music is, there's no vocals, right? All of your music, this is an instrumental band, correct?
Yes. My lead guitar becomes the vocals. I'm inspired mostly by Baroque classical music like Bach and Vivaldi, and so I take a lot of my inspiration from violin music.
Interesting. Now, Okay, so take us back again. We were talking about your first UFO experience in 2014. You're in Hamilton. You look out into the backyard, and this fireball of a disc is moving out from beyond the trees. And you said it's only 2-dimensional. It's surrounded by sort of plasma, which you later learned was plasma. How did you have a sense of it's 100 yards away, but how big might it have been?
I'd say it was probably at least 40 feet in length.
Mm-hmm.
Had to be at least 40 feet in length.
Is it making any sound?
No, it was completely silent, and it was moving about the speed of a helicopter. It was moving very slow. It was just taking its time, just going across the sky really slow to make sure that I got a good look at it. And then as it's turning away, the light source from the plasma stream got less and less until it actually had no light at all. It was just a black object. There was like no light whatsoever. But simultaneously, while it was doing that, this white swirling vortex was forming in the front of it. It was strange. I think it could have been like a portal. I had no idea. It was just really weird. It was getting like really big.
And at this point,
this swirling vortex.
Prior to this sighting, would you characterize yourself as a skeptic?
No, I've always hoped for a UFO contact. I mean, I've spent huge portion of my life studying the phenomena. I wasn't, my whole reason to create Pyramids on Mars, my band, was to use it as a catalyst, or to help awaken people to the ET reality, and that they're here and that they've been here for a long time and trying to teach people about it. So it was all connected.
But up until 4 years ago, you had never seen one.
No, that's actually not true.
Ah, okay.
That wasn't my first UFO contact. My first UFO real contact was 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think there was like a missing time that took place in that. It was a really strange event that took place.
Okay, missing time. Now we're getting to the crux of the matter. Missing time often equals abduction.
Yes. Yeah. It was. I'll tell you what happened with that incident.
Yes, please.
So it was 1999 up in Huntsville. I'm sure you know.
Oh, yes.
Huntsville is like
cottage country.
It's cottage country. And so I'm with my band members. My drummer Matt, he's also an experiencer and a huge ET believer. So he and I are in the water there. It was at nighttime. It was like, there's no city for like hundreds of miles, so it's like 10,000 stars in the sky.
It's spectacular.
Full moon, just beautiful. Not a cloud in the sky. And all of a sudden, then we hear this sound. It sounded like fireworks, like a firecracker, I guess. It sounded like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look up at the sky, and there's this object, which is the same size as the moon, diameter, the circular object, is coming right towards us, like hurtling at us at a high speed. But I could tell that its trajectory was that it was heading directly at us, because the flames are shooting all around the edge, like the perimeter of this thing equally. So it wasn't like it came out of space and was like a shooting star, which you'd see that from far away. No, this thing was like right on top of us. Like it just came out of nowhere.
Mm.
And then we look up, and then it's coming right for us, and then it's maybe 1,000 feet above our heads, and all of a sudden there's a flash, and there was nothing there. I'm still looking up at the sky. It's quiet. It's silent. And it wasn't there anymore. It's just like what happened?
And your drummer
like,
saw
this.
UFO? Your drummer saw this as well.
He saw it too. Yeah,
Okay.
He was a witness to this.
And at what point did you realize there was some missing time?
12, 13, 15 years later.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah,
Why so long?
We just we cuffed it off. Like it was like, oh, that was weird. Okay, anyway. It's like, wait a second.
Well, how did you put it together 12 years later that there was a time gap?
Yeah, well, we just, we thought it was a weird thing. We didn't understand what had happened, and we couldn't piece it together, because like it happened so quick, and then it flashed and was gone. So we just didn't really know what to make of it. So we just kind of like thought, oh, that was just kind of weird. But it was maybe 5 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, that I really started stopping and taking it seriously to replay back in my mind over and over, trying to understand what the heck just took place here. There's something that took place there. And it was finally when I was doing a radio interview, and I forget the guy's names, but they said they were talking to somebody, and they described what missing time was like, and when they said it's like a bad movie edit, and that's when the hairs on my arm just stood up and went, oh my God, that's exactly what I experienced.
Like a jump
It
cut.
was like a bad movie edit.
Right. We used to call that a jump cut.
A jump, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And did either you or your drummer, did you consider regression,
I did.
hypnotic regression?
Yeah, I did. But there was nothing I could pull up after, what happened afterwards. It's like whatever happened, the memories are not there.
All right.
It's very frustrating.
This was a short segment, but when we come back, we will play the more of that Pyramidion, thank you. Pyramidion healing music. And we'll also delve further into the life of contactee musician Kevin Estrella. Don't forget, coming up next hour, live on location to a haunted house in Racine, Wisconsin, medium psychic Carolyn Clapper. That all awaits on The Conspiracy Show. Don't go away.
The world is being pulled over your eyes. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio. This is no place for the naive or the faint-hearted. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Kevin Estrella stays with us. The band is Pyramids on Mars. Now, Ian, in the other room, can we hear some more of the Pyramidion healing tones? This is what you just sent me, Kevin. Sounds very orchestral. Wow, that's very powerful. I can see how that would kick your brain waves into the alpha state.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to this, or anyone is listening to this, someone, driving around in their car, they're listening to this, or they're at home in their room alone in the dark listening to this, are they more likely then to have telepathic communication, even if they've never had such with an ET?
I think that it could, with the, I mean, that the sample there, it's a very aggressive type of sound, but it definitely still changes your consciousness. Like when I play it through my monitors, it just blows my mind. But by having it, resonate at a lower frequency, it can probably help you get into an alpha state, which then puts you into a higher telepathic state, which then, yes, you can. And that's what we were demonstrating at the sound healing show several weeks ago, because when I was over at Campbell's place, when we were testing the Pyramidion and I was playing along with it, I was so in tune with the Pyramidion, and I was so attached, like I became part of it, that I decided to try and control it and change it telepathically. And I did. I changed the sound telepathically with the Pyramidion. And how I did that was it was resonating at one note, which was the F, and I wanted to focus on bringing in the fifth degree, which is the C, and I started playing the C in my mind, of hearing the C, and then the Pyramidion started to change, and that note came in. I couldn't believe it. And then Campbell's like, "Did you just do that?" I said, "Yes."
So you're interacting telepathically with the pyramid, and you're
Yes.
manipulating that carrier wave of 432 hertz.
Yes, I was changing the sound.
So do you think that's what the actual, the Great Pyramids at Giza, is that what they were for?
I honestly believe that they are much more than what people think they are. They are not what the Egyptian government says, where they're nothing but the tombs. That's a cover story. Why do you think they took the Pyramidion caps off of the pyramids? There's a reason for that.
Right.
The Pyramidion. That's the capstone of the pyramid. So that's why we call this thing the Pyramidion, is because it is a capstone. So it's an energy generator. But when you actually listen to the Pyramidion, it's capturing that sound sonically and acoustically. What you're hearing is it's generating itself. It doesn't. There's nothing else to it. It makes a sound on its own. We're just. He just puts a microphone in a speaker to amplify its own sound of itself.
Right. That's wild.
It's insane. It's crazy.
But the pyramids weren't made of copper, of course. So why copper?
Well, actually, copper. I wouldn't say it's copper. I mean, the frame itself is just like normal steel, but the disc on top, it's kind of like the material of like a symbol. It's almost like a symbol material.
Right.
I guess it's copper, isn't it? I don't know.
Well, some sort of an alloy. I'm not sure exactly what goes into making a symbol. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go back to your experiences and your contact. So this, back in 1999, up in Huntsville, you and your drummer, you see this. Sounds almost if it more interdimensional, because it was just suddenly there and then it was gone. And years later, you believe that you not recalled, but there was some missing time. Now, have there subsequently been more contacts?
Oh God, yeah. I've had two other UFO sighting contacts. Just briefly to talk about that. 2 years ago, I was doing a photo shoot out in Scarborough Bluffs, which is the east side of Toronto, and I was photobombed by a UFO. Crazy as it was. Yep, it just goes to show you that they're always with me. But we took 100 shots, and one of the shots, this strange cylinder, metallic-looking ball with this weird teardrop energy formation, was definitely just over the horizon of where I was, and it's captured. If you go to my Twitter page, or my Twitter, which is @PyramidsOnMars_, that's the picture that I have up there. If you click on that and bring in the picture, you will see the UFO behind me.
I'm
got
just going to
that
ask
one, and
Ryan.
then-
Do you have time to look that up, Ryan, and get that up on the
Yeah,
YouTube
I'll
stream?
try to get that on the live stream here if I can take a look.
Excellent. You have the Twitter feed.
Where is it again, Kevin?
Oh yeah, if you go to Twitter, and then it's at Pyramids on Mars _.
And on the page.
It's the main
Yeah,
picture
like-
there on the Twitter feed.
Yeah, and on my picture, you'll see the picture of me with my guitar, and then just click on it, and then you can enhance the picture, and because I already enhanced the UFO itself by 200% to make it bigger, and then you can see it.
All right.
Pretty wild.
He'll get to work on that, and we can
Yeah.
get that up on the YouTube stream. Now, you are, Kevin, at what point did you become convinced, and how so that there are ET human hybrids among us now?
Well, I mean, I've had more and more ET contact. The most recent one being 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
I was visited 2 days ago.
By who or what? Whom or what?
The Zetas.
The Zetas. These are Zetas.
Yeah. The Zetas. Yeah. Yeah. Pontel, actually, they're from the planet Pontel. To kind of make a long story short, they're actually there's a group of Zetas who are using Twitter. If you go to @SandiaWisdom, there's a group of Zetas who are actually using Twitter to communicate. They don't do the actual tweets. That's done through Sue Walker, who is a well-recognized telepath. She does all the tweets for them. She communicates with them, and then she does all the tweeting. I'm very good friends with Sue. I've been over to her place in Albuquerque, and I actually saw one of them. I saw a radar in my peripheral vision. But I was told by Sue 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago that they have more trainees that were coming in, and they're going to be taking them to different houses, North American houses. And I was on the schedule. And so she said, you'll know that they showed up if something is out of place. And then yesterday, I have this little statue. It's a little guitar player on my shelf, and it was turned around backwards. And I'm the only person who has access to my apartment. So I knew that somebody had been here. So when I tweeted to them and I asked them about it, Rudy, she confirmed, she asked the trainees, and I guess they were very quiet about it because they thought they were going to get in trouble. I guess one of them had taken it off a shelf because it looked curiously strange, and he put it around backwards. And he felt really bad. He felt bad about it, but it's confirmed that, yeah, they were at my place 2 days ago.
And are these hybrids, or are these solely extraterrestrials?
Oh, they're solely extraterrestrial. They're Pontel from the planet Ponti.
Do we know what star system that
Zeta.
is? Do we know what constellation, what star system?
Yeah, Zeta Reticuli 2.
Mhm.
It's the fifth planet orbiting Zeta Reticuli 2. So they're the regular Zetas that people see, with the large gray heads and black eyes.
These are the grays.
That's them.
These are the grays.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've given them names, so there are a number of individuals that you're in contact with.
There's four main ones. The four original are Tilcum. He's their commander. There's Rudy. She's a girl, and she's communications. Teeny, she's there to teach telepathy, and then their pilot Radar, and he's a good buddy of mine. The reason I know that they're real was because Radar teased me in live time on Twitter, and he actually put out on Twitter what I was thinking. And I realized then, oh my God, that it's real because he just tweeted what I was thinking. And
he's using he's using this woman in Albuquerque as the conduit to
that's
her
right,
Twitter feed. Okay. And what were you thinking, and what was tweeted?
He was teasing me because I have T-shirts for sale on my website, which were these extraterrestrial T-shirts. I called them E-T-shirts, but the drawings on them were done by Rob Fullington, who's an experiencer who I had on my show. But his pictures, I guess, are a little bit more serious and kind of scary looking. And so Radar tweets to me, says, Kevin, we really got to get you better models for your T-shirts because the ones in your T-shirts are really kind of scary looking. And so I was like, I tweeted back and say, oh yeah, well, I know 4 new models for my T-shirts because Sue has actually drawn portraits of them, and it's on their website, so
right.
you can see what they
look like. I have
seen
those, yes. And you've seen all 4 of these individual ETs in your apartment?
No, not them. No, I saw radar in my peripheral vision when I went to visit Sue. But the thing is that they still have to remain hidden. So I actually haven't seen them in full. What I did see was, though, I saw shadow movement out of the corner of my eye, and I realized that it was him, because at the same time that I was looking over my shoulder, Sue was looking at the reflection in her at the window in the same direction I was. So simultaneously, we're both looking in the corner because we both see something moving.
Right.
But when I looked over my regular view, I couldn't see him. But I knew that he was there.
And other members of your band, the drummer again, is he in communication with these Greys as well?
Oh no, because that was a band from 15 years ago, and he's kind of moved on. So
all right, another band.
I'm still solo, but I've been told that I'm going to have a lot more visitations by the Ponte, particularly because they want to. They're taking notes on different music, and so they already said, let's let us know ahead of time when you're going to be practicing or playing your guitar, and we're going to come and check you out. So
all right. Okay. Well, when they do, you let us know, and I will likely run into you at the Alien Cosmic Expo. Apparently, I'm going to be moderating a panel, so I'm sure we'll cross paths, Kevin. Great having you on the program. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Kevin Estrella, Pyramids on Mars. When we come back, we go live to a reportedly a very active haunted location in Racine, Wisconsin. It's called the Christmas House. Medium, medical, intuitive, psychic Carolyn Clapper will join us. And I saw the comments on the YouTube live stream chat. People asking, are we actually going to see the house? Well, the interior anyway, yes. Back with more in a moment. Stay with us. Taxi, your parents' basement, your loft, that greasy spoon just off the interstate, and your cabin in the woods. A big how-do to all of you listening in on our flagship station, Zoomer Radio, right here in Toronto, Canada, AM 740, 96.7 FM. All of you down the line catching us on one of our affiliate stations, including our brand new one, KDET AM in Shreveport, Louisiana. And those of you who take the show on the road with the Conspiracy Show app and the Zoomer Radio app, both free downloads, and of course the live YouTube stream, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. However and wherever you're listening, I bid thee the warmest of welcomes, and I thank you for your fine company. Again, don't forget my 2 new podcasts, Conspiracy Unlimited and the Rock and Roll Twilight Zone. The former, Conspiracy Unlimited, drops 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Subscribe at conspiracyunlimitedpodcast.com. Conspiracyunlimitedpodcast.com. The latter is brand new We just launched last Wednesday the Rock and Roll Twilight Zone, and that's part of the Westwood One podcast network and the Jericho network with Chris Jericho of WWE fame, and also he's got a new rock band called Fozzy. It's not that new; it's been around for quite a while, but doing very, very well. I've got to get him on the show. All right, this is exciting. We are going to Racine, Wisconsin, where my next guest is situated in an old Victorian house known as the Christmas House. And it looks, or it is rather, reportedly a very active house. By that I mean haunted. Who knows? If you're watching the this radio program on the live YouTube stream, you just might witness something on the webcam. Maybe, maybe not, no guarantee. Carolyn Clapper is an evidential medium, psychic, medical intuitive. She developed these abilities after a near-death experience at an early age. Prior to that, she described herself as a skeptic. She's also worked on missing persons and missing animal cases, unsolved homicides. Carolyn Clapper, welcome to the Conspiracy Show. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
Excellent.
Just got situated into this nice old home that you were talking about.
We should point out this is not your home. You're staying with friends.
No, it's not my home. Actually, I'll tell you, I was more nervous about coming to this home for this interview than the actual interview itself.
Is that right? And why is that?
Yeah. Well, I'd have to take you back. But this house is, a very popular house in the Racine area. But one of my friends now owns it, and she began, I got to know her as a client first. I was actually called by another friend, by a mutual friend of ours, to come down to Racine and read this house when she purchased it because they had so much activity going on. And I thought, well, what am I really getting myself into? It can't be that bad. So I agreed to it, and I came down, and when I walked through the door, I felt like I was basically walking at a 45-degree angle. It was just the second I came in here, it just this huge energy tilted me, I guess, for lack of a better term. Excuse me.
And so that would be a negative energy, I'm guessing.
Well, it's just powerful energy. I don't know if it's like negative or positive. It was just intense. So basically, I took it as negative, which I've come to learn that it's just intense. Like it's both positive and negative.
Right.
When I came in here, I was getting a lot of resistance from the house. It had sat for a long time, just vacant. And it hadn't been loved in years. And my friend Pamela decided to take it on as a project. And so she had, come in here. You can see the home behind me. It's just beautiful. And they've done so much work on it. But prior to this, it was just, it was falling apart. And the home was sad. And I know that sounds strange that a house can have feelings. But when a home sits, it's inviting, people, souls that are lost to come in.
Oh, is that how it happens? So a vacant house is kind of a magnet for spirits.
It really is. It can be. It's not always, but this one is particularly like a magnet. It's so old and has so much history that when it's that vacant, other souls came in, and it also is occupied by the souls that were left behind. That had once lived here.
Carolyn Clapper is with us, and she's in the it's called the Christmas House. Why is it called the Christmas House?
I'm not sure. It's called Christmas. You'd have to ask Pamela that. It's called the Christmas House, I believe, because it's been used and decorated for Christmas for many years.
All right. Now you had warned.
It's just heavily decorated for that season, and people come by and they're like, "Oh, the Christmas House." So adopted that name, but I could be wrong about that.
Now you warned me that because you've got the webcam on there in the house, that there might be some interruption, and I have my little my iPhone here to monitor the YouTube channel. Let me just ask Ryan, are we up on the YouTube? Are we streaming?
We're up, and it just kind of the feed is kind of coming in and out a little bit.
Okay, so I'll pre-warn you. Okay, so what I was trying to get to, sorry, I was a little bit choppy to begin with because I'm sitting here like kind of combating energy here. So it takes me a minute to kind of settle in when I get into this space. So
the audio is fine.
More fluid now.
The audio is fine. The audio is fine. I'm just not seeing any video. Are we getting any, Ryan?
Well, and sometimes the audio is echoing a tiny little bit. Carolyn, if you have a computer there, could just make sure that microphone for the computer is on mute. That should help. We are getting a little bit of interference, though.
Nope, the microphone is on mute.
All right. Well, I'll keep monitoring what's going on here.
But what about?
Okay, so I've asked people to come in. Let me take you through this a little bit. So when I came in here for the first time, I sat with Pamela. The house I felt was rejecting me. Okay, it didn't want me. Here's how I felt. So I made sure to do a mantra when I came in through my mind and just kind of put it out there like I'm a medium. I'm not here to harm anyone. I'm not here to push anyone out. Anyone who has dwelled here for years, I'm not pushing you out. I just want to talk with you.
Right.
And negotiate terms. And, you know, just have communication between you and the new resident. Okay. So when I started saying that out loud and saying that in my heart, things started to calm down for me a little bit. I sat down with Pamela, and right away I started getting things for her psychically. So I started seeing her past, what she's been through. Her parents came, some other people came through to her, and were just telling me how they passed, talking with her. That's mostly what I do is communicate with those who have crossed over for people who are here now. And they come through with evidence, and they tell me how they passed. They tell me what's going on right now, currently in people's lives. I guess they just try and comfort the ones that they've left behind and let them know that they're okay.
Right. That is a beautiful fireplace. I see the fireplace now. I can see everything. It's a beautiful.
You can see some stuff.
Yes.
We set this up here because we're hoping that mirrors sometimes are easier for people that want for spirit to come through.
Right.
So I have a mirror behind me, as you can see.
Yes.
I also have some candles. I'm hoping that we get some
imagery, like some
faces or something.
And what have you seen
since talk to people here when I come into the house? Hopefully get some,
hopefully people will come through.
Right.
While I'm online with you. But there's no guarantee.
No, of course not. No, you have some pets with you. Is one of those pets a dog?
Yes.
Has the dog been frightened, or has it sensed something, seen something?
Okay, so at this house, I know that her dogs do sense things. Like they definitely start barking when there's something negative. I think that we all have good intuition. When your stomach starts to feel funny, or when you feel like
goosebumps in the back of your neck, or you start feeling like somebody's watching you. So anytime you have that feeling here, the dogs feel it as well. So they'll go to the area of which spirit is at because they see them as well. And they'll start barking. They'll start barking at corners. They'll start barking at walls. So Pamela always feels protected with her dogs here because anytime that she feels a little bit watched or a little bit off, the dogs will always come to her aid.
Okay.
So they feel it too, which is also it's confirmation.
Sure. We're all keeping our eyes peeled on that mirror now.
So what was cool is that when I sat down with her,
after reading for her, which I don't want to share with everyone,
No.
personal. But people in this home started coming through to me, and one of the people who came through was an old mayor.
Well, he died pretty young, but he was a mayor who lived here a long time ago, and he still dwells here. He told me that his body was prepared in the basement, and that there was a viewing of his funeral within his casket and stuff in one of the front rooms, which I would be happy to carry this camera around for you, but it would be a little awkward.
Right.
I won't do that.
Okay, so this house was the funeral home at one point.
No, but they did prepare some bodies.
Oh, okay.
So this house has been around since the 1800s. So there was preparation of people who lived here. and who passed here. So I mean, just because of the day and time, you know what I mean?
Sure, sure. And do you get full-on apparitions? How do you see them? How do you communicate with them?
So I don't see them with my eyes like I see you. I see them behind my eyes. And what I mean by that is that it's kind of like um,
Um,
when you
when you
close
close
your
your
eyes,
eyes,
okay,
okay,
and
and
you
you
imagine
imagine
something,
something,
all
all
right?
right?
Like if
Like
you
if you
closed
close
your eyes
your eyes
right now
right
and
now
I
and I
said
said
here,
here,
imagine
imagine
your
your
mother
mother
in
in
a
a
polka
polka
dot
dot
dress,
dress,
right?
right?
Yes.
Imagine
Imagine
her
her
holding
holding
an
an
apple
apple
pie
pie
in
in
her
her
hands
hand
Okay.
and
and handing it to you.
Yes.
If you
If
have
you
a
have a
creative
creative
mind
mind
and
and you're
you're able
able
to
to
do
do
that,
that,
it's
it's
kind of
kind of
like they
like they
put
put
thoughts
thoughts
into my
into my
head
head
and they
and they
manifest as
manifest as
images. So
images.
it's
So
kind
it's
of
kind
like
of like
sometimes it's
sometimes it's
like that,
like
like
that.
they'll
Like
tell
they'll
me
tell
what
me
to
what to
see and
see
I'll
and
see
I'll
it.
see it.
Right.
Um,
Um,
other
other
times,
times,
like when
like
I'm
when I'm
working
working
on
on
investigations
investigations
or
or
homicide,
homicide,
or
or
I'm asking how somebody passed, sometimes
sometimes they will actually like
it's
it's
almost like
almost like
a movie
movie
screen is
screen is
projecting from
projecting
the
from
back
the
of
back
my
of my
head
head
forward to the
forward to
back
the
of
back
my
of my
eyes.
eyes.
And
And
so
so
I
I
kind of see
kind
a
of see a
movie
movie
play out.
play out.
It may
It may
have
have
like
like
empty
empty
spaces in
spaces
it.
in it.
Um,
Um,
you
you
know,
know,
it's like
it's like
broken. It's
broken.
like a
It's like a
broken
broken
movie, and I
movie,
have
and
to
I have to
fill the
fill in the
spaces.
spaces.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay,
then I
so
have
then
to
I have
ask
to
them
ask them
questions.
questions.
I ask them
And
questions
questions
through my
through my
mind. It's
mind.
like
It's like
telepathy.
telepathy.
So
So
it's
it's
strange to
strange to
people,
people,
but
but
not
not
really. Not
really.
if you
Not if
think
you
about
think
it in
about
the
it in the
context of
context of
like
like
prayer.
prayer.
A lot
A
of
lot of
people
people
pray.
pray.
A lot
A
of
lot of
people
people
pray to
pray to
God, or
God, or
Sure.
talk to
talk to
people who have
people who have
crossed over, and
crossed over, and
sometimes they do
sometimes
it
they do
through
it
their
through their
heart
heart
and their
and their
mind.
mind.
Carolyn, I got to
And
jump in here.
That's what I
Excuse me. We're going to take a timeout. We'll come back, and then we'll come back to the Christmas house in Racine, Wisconsin. Carolyn Clapper is with us. Evidential medium. We'll find out what that means as well. Psychic, medical, intuit. Back with more of the Conspiracy Show. Keep your eyes peeled on that mirror if you're watching the YouTube stream. Back with more in a moment. Stay with us.
Where there's smoke, there's The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio. Sometimes corporations. Got something to say? Call Richard Syrett now at 416-360-0740 or
No,
toll
not
free
yet.
at 1-866-740-4740.
Okay.
All right. Carolyn Clapper is an evidential medium. We'll find out what that means in a moment. And right now, she's sitting in front of a glorious fireplace with a mirror. And this is in a very famous house in Racine, Wisconsin. It's called the Christmas House. It dates back to the 1800s, and it is very active. And if you're watching the YouTube stream, you may just catch something in that mirror. No guarantee, but just keep your eyes peeled on that mirror. Do they have any poltergeist activity in this house?
Oh man, don't get me started.
Get started.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So
basically,
how do I put this? I'm sitting here now, so I'm just going to let you know that when I start talking about anything negative, I get a little bit nervous because I'm so sensitive. But
Okay.
we'll go there. It's fine. Okay.
okay.
So
when
when I was first sitting here with Pamela, I started pulling in some of the people that live here. Some of them, there's three nurses that live here on the third story. So this is a huge house. Like each story has, I think, 3,000 square feet per story.
Oh my.
So it's a 10,000 square foot house. So we're sitting here, right? And I'm meeting people in spirit. Okay.
Okay, so I better say that. I'm meeting people in spirit,
And they're
and
telling me
they're identifying themselves.
The first person who came through was this mayor that I was telling you about.
He
And
was
he was kind of negative, but he wasn't. He was still human. You know what I'm saying? So he
Right.
was negative. He was angry that somebody was
kind of coming into his
space.
space.
But the more that I spoke to him about it, he kind of just said, "Well, I'm upset that she's in my office, that she's using my office space because that's my space." You know? Which we can understand.
I mean, that was his office space. He spent a lot of time there. He's still here. People may have an issue with that,
but it is what it is. I don't know why he stayed, but he did. And it's a beautiful home. Maybe that's why. And he didn't like anyone coming into his space. Well, she was coming into his space. She had put a couple vases in there. She was kind of putting a female touch to it, and he didn't really like it. So one day he had picked up a vase of hers that was blue and white, and he threw it across the room and it shattered. Right? I'm seeing this because her mother's talking to me. She comes through and she says, "He threw my vase across the room."
Pamela's late mother. Pamela's late mother came.
Pamela's late mother came through. So we were talking, and she says that somebody threw her vase across the room and broke it. She tells me which room. Mind you, I have not been anywhere in this house yet except for the room I'm sitting in now.
Right.
Okay. So I come directly into this room, sat at the same table, and I was seeing the entire house through my mind. Okay. They show me I can travel here. Okay. I can travel through my mind. Two other places, and I can envision them as wherever they want to take me. Okay.
Right.
So we'll get into that in a second if you want to hear more about that. But she's telling me about this room. She's telling me where it's located in the house. She shows me the vase shattering. I asked Pamela, "Is this true?" Pamela agrees. She says, "Yes. Oh my God, that thing levitated and threw across the room." I mean, she saw it happen. Okay. And that's why she had contacted me, because there was some crazy stuff going on here like that. Okay. So later on, she takes me in there and she shows me the fragments of that vase on the floor. And of course, I'm going, "Oh my gosh, I'm super nervous because the energy is still not subdued. It was intense at that time." Okay. That was one negative thing. So I had to sit and talk with her and talk with him and kind of negotiate boundaries between the two of them. She's an intense person. She's very charismatic and really outgoing and, just this wonderful, beautiful person. But, she has high energy. Well, he has high energy too, but they're very different people. They would have been very different if he was alive. Okay. And we needed to establish a boundary. So he says, "Okay, look, from this time to this time, I don't want you in that room. Okay. This is my time in there." And she complied. He says, "Can you please keep that door shut?" She says, "Okay, fine. I'll do that for you." Okay. And so they established a boundary. And I said, "Okay, well, since she's doing that for you, can you help to protect the home from unwanted, behaviors and anything bad?"
Right.
And he agrees. Okay. So that was one established boundary. And also I'm staging the house so that we have protection within the house, positive protection.
How do you do that? How do you stage a house for
Okay,
positive
well, so
protection?
this was my first experience with staging a house for protection. So I was kind of feeling my way through the dark, literally. Okay. But I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. So I asked him to protect the downstairs. That would be the first floor that I'm on now. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, as I moved through the people that were coming through, there was 3 nurses that lived here, and I didn't understand why there was 3 nurses. There was a head nurse and 2 nurses below her. And they take me in my mind's eye up 2 levels, in the house, so to the top floor, and they show me
a big, big room that has a fireplace, and they're telling me the wallpaper, they're telling me about the bathroom. Pamela's confirming everything, the furniture, everything verbatim. I've never stepped foot in this room. And they show me that Pamela was wanting to change the bathroom attire and to kind of flip some things and change things around.
Right.
And they really were not liking the fact, again, that she was changing their space. And so at one point she had gone into the bathroom and the head nurse grabbed her hair and pulled her back.
Oh, dear.
Okay. So you asked me about poltergeist stuff. Now, some people who can't see like I see may see it that way. Like, oh my gosh, there's this horrible thing going on, and my hair lifted out of nowhere and we couldn't see anything and I was yanked. And yeah, that's terrifying. Okay. So that's what Pamela was experiencing. She's like, this is terrifying, right? But once I step in here, she's not telling me what's happening to her, but the spirits here are, and she's confirming. Then she has a face and a person that belongs to the hand that pulled the hair. You understand?
Right. Becomes
So
a
it
little
kind of
less
makes it a little
freaky.
less scary. What's
Sure.
that?
Yeah, a little less freaky for sure. Now, these are not. This is not a residual sort of an echo. These are spirits with consciousness. So
Absolutely.
they are
No,
earthbound.
absolutely.
So, can you not show them? Tell them that they're dead and to walk towards the light. Can you not cleanse the house, or is
Well,
that not what you do?
okay, so when I came here, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Okay. And I'm not a priest. I don't know how to exercise a space necessarily.
Okay.
I fell into this. I had meningitis in 2011. When I came out of it, I could see everything and feel things. Okay.
That's when it all started.
Go
2011.
ahead.
That's when it
Yes.
all started in 2011.
It did. I saw stuff as a child, but it was all centered in the house that I was born in. So just really, it was just the spirits within the home that I was born in. And as I got older, it became quiet. And I saw nothing for years until I came down with the meningitis. And then it was like my mind just blew open, basically.
Interesting.
So when I was in here, and I was seeing people, I didn't come in here with the intention of kicking anybody out because I was nervous and I didn't want them to lash out at me. I'm going to be very
Sure. No, that is very honest. I appreciate it.
right. I didn't want to come in here and be like, oh, I have all of this power and I'm going to kick you out of here and this is your home, but I'm going to kick you out. Well, I didn't feel like I possessed, the power to do that. So I came in truly to communicate and to let her know what was going on and to try and form some kind of, like I said, boundaries, respect,
Okay.
peace among them so that they could live cohesively together.
And did the
They were a little harder to warm up to, especially the head nurse. She was used to kind of telling other people how things are going to be. So, they went through Pamela, though. There was a couple times where we knew that they were actually turning, like they started to like her, okay, because she had some issues with her knees at one point, and they went through her and helped to fix her knees, actually.
Oh, okay. So
And
the hair
she has
pulling
seen
has
them and
stopped.
experienced them as well. So
The hair pulling has
there's-
stopped anyway.
what's that?
The hair pulling has stopped.
The hair pulling stopped. So I asked them to stop doing that. The point of the hair pulling was to let her know that they were there. But once we acknowledged the fact that they were there and we could have a conversation with them, there was no point in hair pulling anymore.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Once somebody is like actually being seen and communicated with, then there's no sense in doing anything so dramatic anymore. So that has stopped. But through this process, there were so many people here, I couldn't even tell you. There was a woman who went by this room in a wheelchair. And I'm watching her go by, right? And I'm like, who is she? Where is she going? She didn't tell me who she was, but she wheels by and she tells me that she's going to the elevator. And I'm like, elevator? Well, I hadn't been through the house yet at this point. And she shows me, and again, in my mind's eye, that she's pulling up next to a bathroom and she opens a door and gets into a shaft and goes up the stairs. And I asked Pamela, is there an elevator in this house? And she confirms, she says, there's an elevator behind a door in the hallway. It looks like a normal closet door. If you open it, there's an elevator shaft behind it. And she says it doesn't function. It doesn't work anymore.
There you go.
Well, it was working just fine because this woman was using it and I could see it happening. So even things that function in a house that are physical are working where they are.
Right, right.
I also, some of the scary stuff that you were asking about, when I was going through the house, they took me down to the basement. And when this is through my mind, okay? I'm going down the basement stairs in my mind, and I get to the bottom of the basement stairs, and I see a hole in the wall. I'm thinking, okay, is this just suggestive? Is this real? I'm looking at this hole, and I approach it. And through the hole, I can see stairs. And the stairs go down, down, down until it's dark into a tunnel, and I can't see where the tunnel leads. Okay, it's just blackness. So I asked Pamela reluctantly, I thought this is going to sound really crazy. I said, Pamela, do you have at the bottom of your stairs in the basement, do you have a hole in the wall that has stairs behind it that lead into a tunnel? And she confirmed. She says, oh my God, I have a hole in the wall at the bottom of the stairs of the basement. It's so freaky. There is stairs that lead down. We don't know where they lead.
Oh, they haven't ventured into that tunnel yet.
Correct.
Can't say that I blame them.
Yeah. So I'm coming back up the stairs. In my mind's eye, I'm coming back up the stairs. I kind of got a very nervous feeling down there. And as I'm coming back up, I turn around and I look, and there's at least 30 to 40 people standing down there. These are spirits looking up at me.
30 to 40.
Oh, no.
My Lord.
What's that?
30 to 40, I say.
Yeah,
Oh, my Lord.
There was so many people down there. It was just a packed room of spirits, and they're all staring at me. And I thought, okay, this can't be good. This is a portal or something like this. There's something wrong. We need to close this up. We need to, sage, push things out, do a ritual. So I'm talking to her about this. I physically could not go down there because I was too scared. So
even now?
I'm sorry?
Even now?
I still don't go down there. I know that it's a lot cleaner.
Okay.
They've since sealed that off, and they've done cleansing that I've kind of walked them through. But, I don't really need to go into those spaces physically because I can go to them in my mind anyways.
Sure.
So it's not necessary unless I want to just scare myself, and I'm sure they won't do anything to me. It's just really strong energy. So sometimes I get nervous when it's not positive.
Right. Could I ask a question? I don't know if this is fair of me to do or not, but I don't know, are you feeling a presence in the room you are in now?
I feel presence everywhere in this house.
Okay.
So the second I come here, I feel people. So what I'm glad that I don't feel anymore is there was a dark energy here when I was first here. It was real dark. It was like faceless, and it would come up and down the stairs. And that was what was making me reluctant about connecting in the beginning. And, that has since dissipated because of all the work we've done, all the work that she's done, all the work that her husband has done, bringing this house back to life.
Right.
And just working with sage and different things like that. We've definitely cleansed the house a lot. So now it kind of feels more like a warm hug when you walk in.
Okay.
But there's still a pull on like who's in charge a little bit sometimes here, and I can feel that.
All right. So here's what I was going to ask, and you tell me if this is not the right thing to do, but would you be able to ask if there is a spirit in the room to maybe make itself known by, I don't know, blowing out a candle or something? Is that?
Okay. Well, so here's what's funny. The room that I'm sitting in, okay, can I play with this camera at all or no?
Yes.
Or would it be really weird?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, check it out. I'm going to pull this up. See this lantern above me right there? That chandelier?
There's a bit of a delay, so I haven't seen it yet, but I will. Oh, Ryan, my live stream producer, is giving me the thumbs up. Okay, so he sees the...
Do you see the chandelier?
Okay, yes.
You do. Okay, that particular chandelier does not have a turn off switch or a turn on switch. That chandelier is on all the time whenever it wants to be, or it turns off when it wants to be turned off. So right now it's glowing for us, which is really great. It has again, when I was reading the house in the beginning, we had some activity happening with that chandelier. And Spirit here told me that they control that particular light, that it is actually the wires, the wires are cut. They're severed. So there's no turn off light. There's no switch in here for that light. It has a mind of its own. So the house controls that particular light.
Interesting you mentioned
now for us.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because before you tilted the camera up to show me the chandelier, I had noticed kind of a dimming and did you notice that, Ryan? I noticed the picture got a little dim and then it got brighter and then it got dim intermittently. Okay. I don't know if the chandelier was dimming for you or whether I was seeing something else. I'm not sure.
I'm just so used to it, I don't even think about it. But it could have been.
So a chandelier that's lighting that room has no wires connected to it. It just comes on and off at its own discretion or their own discretion. All right. Stay with us, Carolyn. We'll come back and I want to find out what an evidential medium is exactly. And we'll talk about, we'll just kick it around here. And who knows, maybe the spirits in that room will cooperate and we'll get a sign. Back with more of The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us.
Big Brother is listening, and so are you. To The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio. Where the truth often hides. You're listening to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. Carolyn Clapper is with us.
Hi.
Hi. So what is an evidential medium? What does that mean?
So an evidential medium is a medium who can bring through evidence. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Basically, the more evidence someone brings through, meaning a way of passing, just acknowledgments of items or, spaces or, anything that belongs in what I call the meat world. I know people don't like to hear that, but this world is all,
the meat
all meaty and
world.
stuff,
I love that.
So anything that belongs to this world, if they can bring it through tangible things to you as evidence, then that would be an evidential medium. So I was kind of named, or, I adopted that name from other people. I didn't look for this gift. It was given to me. So it's not something, some of my terminology and verbiage might be different than what people are used to if they're into, the clairvoyant medium type
right
paranormal world. It's just something that I kind of came into. And so I've kind of created my own words. They might even be the same as other people's. I don't even know.
Now, your involvement in missing persons and unsolved homicides. Now, this is something that obviously police don't like to admit. They won't talk about it. They probably will deny it. That they are, you know, seeking,
I hope they won't.
seeking the assistance of psychics and so forth. But you have worked with police departments. Have they sought you, or did you just come to them and offered them help unsolicited? How does that work?
Okay, so I always tell people I'm not an ambulance chaser. I do not seek out cases, nor do I seek out, you know, people to read or anything like that. Everything that comes to me, everyone who comes to me from word of mouth or some other odd way that they had found out about me. Maybe they ran into my website or so forth. Therefore, I have never contacted the police but one time. I contacted them one time recently, actually, about a case that's ongoing right now, which I probably shouldn't get too into since it's ongoing right now. The reason I contacted them this time is because one of my clients that I was sitting with and reading for, at the very end of her reading, she had asked me if I was getting anything for a missing woman in the area that she lived in. And I just said, don't tell me anything else. See, I go into readings cold or blind, meaning that I don't want to know anything about the person that I'm doing the reading for.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to know who they're missing, who they want to be in contact with. I don't want to know their illnesses or lack of or whatever. I don't want to know anything. I want everything to come through God and Spirit to them. It's much more authentic and they get a lot more information that way in my eyes. Okay. So at the end, when she asked me that, all of a sudden, it's kind of like, you know, when she asked it, she attracted it. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, shh. You know, and all of a sudden I get this lady and I start describing her. And I pull people in by the hair is what I tell people. I oftentimes get people like what their hair looks like, and then I kind of pull them in closer. And I start explaining what this woman looks like to her. Then it goes on to what kind of dog she had, what kind of home she had, her belongings, her lifestyle, her husband, et cetera, okay? And I start getting all this information. Well, I'm starting to share it with my client, and I thought, okay, zip your lip, girl, because I get, okay, the person I'm sitting with, she has a good heart. She wants to make sure that this woman's found, but she's not her family or her friend. Okay, so she doesn't have any direct link to her. She's just curious because it's probably been on the news or something, right?
Right.
So I stopped myself and I said, listen, I'm getting a lot about this person. If you feel comfortable, why don't you pass my information on to the police? Let them know that I'm getting stuff about her and they can contact me. So that's how I did it that time. It's just pass my info to them. If they want to contact me, then they have my information.
And did they?
So then they do.
And they do.
They do. They have.
Right.
I shouldn't say they do. They have.
They have. All right.
So they have. A few times I've had detectives, and it's not the police department, it's specific detectives that are on cases, okay, where maybe they could get a little bit more information or guidance in the case. Oftentimes, though, I work with families. You know, a lot of times police departments, they're skeptical, and I completely understand why, because there's so much muddied water. There's so many people out there claiming that they can do things that they can't do. Maybe they're after money. Maybe they're just, I don't know, maybe they glamorize this field because it's kind of unique or, I don't know, just interesting. I don't really know what it is, but I'm sure that they get a lot of false phone calls. So I completely understand. I would be completely skeptical if mediums were calling me and I was a cop.
Sure. We have a mutual friend who was the used to be married to a very famous Hollywood actor, David Carradine, and Marina has been a guest on this show, and she has given us permission to talk a little bit about this reading that you did for Marina, where David Carradine came through. So are you good to chat a little bit about that when we come back?
I'm happy to talk a little bit without exposing too much about his personal stuff, just because he's not here, in person to
exactly
to defend himself, kind of.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we'll talk a little bit about David Carradine. Carolyn Clapper is with us, Evidential medium, and she is coming to us live from the Christmas house, a very haunted home, by all accounts, in Racine, Wisconsin. Back with more of The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Stay with us.
PIN numbers, passcodes, social insurance numbers. If they make you wonder how private they are, here's two more numbers. 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740. You're about to leave everything you know behind on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Carolyn Clapper is with us, evidential medium, psychic, has worked on missing person cases, unsolved homicides, and she is coming to us live from the Christmas house in Racine, Wisconsin, a reportedly very active, haunted location, and we're keeping our eyes on that mirror in behind her above the fireplace. I do want to talk about David Carradine here in a moment, but can you ask if there's a spirit there to make itself known, or is that verboten?
I can. I don't do it verbally. So the reason why I didn't want to do readings online today was because there's so much empty space when I start asking questions, so unless you're tuned in and watching me online and you can see what I'm doing.
Understood.
You know what I mean? Over the air will be so much blank space. I have kind of put that out there when I came in. So they know. I mean, they're all around us. I don't have to, So if something happens, it'll happen.
And so typically what, not that there is a typical scenario, but what might happen? A candle would be snuffed out, the light would dim.
Let me tell you, the last time, sometimes it's just for me because maybe they don't have to be as dramatic with me. That's the problem. Like the last time that I was here before tonight, I came over just to see my girlfriend, Pamela, who's now a friend, not just a client. And I went to her restroom down here that's next to the elevator that I told you about.
Yes.
It's a little powder room. And I was just washing my hands. And when I looked up, I saw a woman standing in the mirror. So it wasn't my reflection. It was another woman's reflection.
Whoa.
Yeah. And she was dressed in kind of like a flapper dress. She was so super cute. And she had this dark hair and it was kind of like waved and pressed to her head. And she tells me that her name is Beatrice. Okay. And she says she's excited that Pamela was going to be throwing this party. It was going to be like a murder mystery type party, but like set in that era. Okay.
Yes.
And she's like, we're super excited. This is the best party yet. So she starts telling me how excited her and her friends are. Okay. She looks like she's maybe in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. She's so super cute. And so I came out of there, and here, if you're online, then you can kind of see this. But the last time I was here, I drew this little thing and I wrote some little notes for her, right? So I came out of there and I drew little Beatrice. And, you know, it's not that great of a picture, but I kind of describe what she was wearing. And she tells her to not forget to make the moon shine. Okay. and that's exactly what I have written on here. So when I was over, she's like, don't forget to make the moon shine. Okay. And I'm like, what is she talking about? And then, you know, Beatrice is telling me, she goes on to tell me that she's going to bring all of her boys with her, all of her gals, and they're just going to tear up she's going to raise the energy here. Okay. Like they're going to have a blast. Right. And I asked Pamela, what is she talking about? And Pamela just starts laughing. Oh my God, I'm having this party. In 2 weeks, we're going to have this murder mystery party. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it's so wonderful that they're going to be here. So she's super stoked. So she keeps this piece of paper that I had written everything on, and she puts it upstairs, right, on the table. And every day following the party, every single day, the paper has been moved to the floor, in the middle of the floor every day since then. So she brought it down tonight. Gave it to me. She's like, here. So
she moved it from one floor to the next, not just on the floor from the table, but she moved it downstairs.
Yeah. So it keeps being moved. Okay. So it's just acknowledgement. Some things are subtle like that. Yeah, they had a lot of wild activity. I kind of asked them not to go too crazy with me here tonight because I don't need any like vases flying at my head.
No. So, I would settle for a candle being blown out.
Yeah. So I mean,
all right, we'll keep watching
out here, or maybe just everything. I've kind of said, okay, well, if you want to turn out all the lights in here, that would be really effective. But of course, that would be kind of you know, on air, people would probably be like, well, somebody could switch off the light, right? So maybe it needs to be something that's a little more interesting, like somebody shows up in the mirror, which is why I was hoping for like the mirror phenomena.
Right. Maybe we'll see Beatrice, the flapper girl. Now,
that's what I'm saying, right? I'm like, come on, girl.
Now, when you went into the bathroom and you saw her, was that a mental image, or did you actually just look up and you saw an apparition in the mirror?
That time I saw her.
Oh my gosh.
That time I saw her.
Is that not startling beyond words for you, or are you used to that?
It took me back. It takes me back for a second. But I know it's okay. I'm used to it.
Right. Okay.
A lot of people ask me questions and I'm like, I know I sound bored with this topic. It's not that I'm bored. It's just that I live it every day.
Sure.
I mean, and that's hard to articulate to people. When I sit with people and I see a dramatic death happen, if there's a homicide or a suicide or something, and it's heart-wrenching to see it, you know, it's heart-wrenching.
Right.
But sometimes it even comes through a little more dramatic to me, so that I don't get it wrong. It's real dramatic, you know, because then I've got to articulate that to somebody. And you always have to keep in mind people's feelings that are in front of you.
Okay, I just want to jump in here. Excuse the interruption, Carolyn, but I mentioned earlier that, and I don't know if anyone else is seeing this, but on my iPhone, which I'm using as my monitor, I get like this shadow, a bar across the top every once in a while, and I just saw it a few seconds ago. I don't know if anyone else is seeing that.
Good. Well, hopefully when we look at it later, you know, we can find some good stuff in there.
Okay. I want to, you know, one more question, and then I want to get to David Carradine. But
sure.
I mean, if I had your gift, I would always be asking when I would see a spirit, I would always asking them, you know, when did you die and how did you die, that sort of thing. Do you do that?
Yes. Always.
Did you ask Beatrice?
I didn't. That's funny. I didn't because it wasn't necessary. What was the point? Because there was nobody here to confirm it. I only ask it when it's necessary. I don't ask unnecessary questions.
How about the mayor?
No.
Okay.
I didn't, because here's the thing. Nobody was sitting in front of me that knew them in their life. So there was no need to say, oh, can you confirm this for me? Okay, they died in 1946 or something, and this is what they died of, you know. I mean, can you confirm this? They'd say no. So I did write down a bunch of stuff when everybody came through initially. I don't even remember. You know, there's a woman here who passed of brain cancer, and she's here, and she has come through several times. She was here tonight when I came in, and it turned out, you know, Pamela was able to tell me, yes, she had brain cancer and she lived here, and I told her, well, she has 2 children that are still alive, and she wants to get through to them somehow. So I don't know if that'll ever come to fruition or what, but you know, she comes through to me because she wants that information passed along to her kids. So that's important that I know how she passed and I can identify her, because she has living people here that still want to hear from her.
Sure. Okay. Marina Anderson, who we both know, and she was married to David Carradine, the actor. I grew up watching Kung Fu, like a lot of people. And of course, we're coming up in a few months on the anniversary of David Carradine's rather suspicious death. He, of course, was found dead in his hotel room in Bangkok. I think it was officially, was it ruled auto asphyxiation or something? Anyway, David, and I should point out, Marina has given us permission to talk about this a little bit. But when David came through, what did he say? Anything about his death?
David had a lot to say. So when he first came through, he came through to me as John. So I did not grow up with Kung Fu. I'm not even familiar with it now. That was before me a little bit. So I'm just not familiar with the show. I did recognize his face, but I couldn't place his face. So he sat with me on my bed. I did a phone reading with Marina. I didn't know that she was married to anyone famous. I didn't know anything about her. I went into her reading cold, as I do with everybody. And I just knew her first name. So I really didn't know anything about her. He came through as John and as her ex-husband. Okay. So I just treated it like I would a normal reading. When he first came in, he came in as a hanging. Okay. He had actually showed up in my last 2 readings prior to that. So I sat with a young woman the day before, and he showed up. Okay, let me pull this back a second. I sat with a young woman the day before. 2 of her friends that came through were a brother and sister combo, and they had both taken their own lives. It's a tragic story, very, very sad. Okay. Just heart-wrenching. And, you know, David, or John, how I know him, he came through behind them. And I asked her about him. I said, I have another hanging victim. Okay. And I described him, and he had a dog with him. Okay. And she said, no, she was saying no. Okay. And I said, okay, wait, I think this belongs to my reading for tomorrow. So I'm just going to push this away. I'm going to push him back. Tomorrow came, and I spoke with a mutual friend of Marina's and mine, and I believe you know him too. His name's Bob. And when I was talking with him, John, or David, came through again. And I said, okay, this guy keeps coming through, and he came through as a hanging again. And so I thought it was suicide. And by the time I spoke with Marina, he showed me, yes, I am for her. Okay. So he came through for her. I got him at first as a hanging victim. I pulled him, and I didn't question it because she had said yes. Okay. So that was my confirmation. As we went on, and they were talking, about personal things, which I won't go into detail about. He was talking about some of the things that she still has of his, and, you know, some of the things that they've gone through in life, and different, you know.
There's that shadow again.
Very
Sorry.
personal stuff.
Sorry, that shadow again. Sorry for the interruption.
Right. And then he brought me into his death, and the details just didn't match up with what I was told, what I believed was a self-inflicted hanging. It just didn't match up. The way that his legs were positioned, for instance, it was like as though he was pulled and dragged over, okay, because they were bent in a way that would have been conducive with being staged, if you will.
Right.
Okay. So I got some, I don't know how much of this I can share, but I mean, a lot of details, even in regards to maybe other people being involved. And like I told her, and I tell everybody, if these things come through and I can tell that there's foul play or anything, pass my information along to anybody who could reopen the case, or detectives who have worked on it. And I'm happy to give them any information that I'm getting to.
Right.
You know,
and well, Marina,
to resolve it.
Marina believes that he was murdered.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is that your conclusion based on what you saw, what he told you? I mean, couldn't he tell you whether he was murdered?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And
so that's what I was getting. is that there was foul play. And I mean, without getting into full details, like, I just don't feel comfortable getting into the full details because some of it is just, you know, it's for him. I stumble because I don't know how much of it is okay to say.
Okay, but without divulging any other, you know, anything else, did David Carradine, first of all, why would he come through as John?
He came through as John because that was his birth name, I believe.
Ah, well, that was his
when I asked Marina why he was coming through as John, you know, okay, eventually, basically what happened was I'm like, okay, am I supposed to know you? He was showing me himself on a stage and then behind a stage and on a stage and behind a stage. And then he's showing me him talking to a young lady in the makeup area, like a makeup artist. Well, I guess Marina did makeup art and stuff before. So, you know, they had been talking and stuff. But he was somebody who worked, you know, off stage, like directing and stuff, and then also on stage. So he was showing me he was trying to explain to me who he was. And so he's sitting here with me cross-legged on my bed and getting kind of snarky. And I'm like, well, I can't tell who you are. And he came in really close to me and he's like, is this better? And he was kind of mocking me. And I was like, you little shit. I just thought it was really funny. Like, he's just kind of playing around with me. He was a real chilled, laid-back guy. And I really liked him. And I kind of got his energy as like Clint Eastwood, but he didn't look like him. And then he shows me himself superimposed over Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee, I know who Bruce Lee is. So Bruce Lee is like standing in this pose with his leg out and in his full attire. And he superimposed himself over him and he put his hair back in a ponytail.
That's how he communicated.
I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, I know who you are. Then he shows me Uma Thurman and he shows me the end of one of the Kill Bills where she takes him outside and she kills him.
Right. And he was born John Arthur Carradine. Of course, his father was a very famous actor, John. Carolyn, we're out of time. We'll have to have you back. This was fascinating.
Definitely. I'd love to join you again.
Give us a website, Carolyn, if people want to get a hold of you.
Sure. It's www.thenextworldmedium.com.
Thenextworldmedium.com. Please come back again and stay safe there in the Christmas house.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me.
All right, my pleasure. Ian Robertson, thank you. Albert Vinzel, and of course, Ryan White. Thank you all. Back next week, a brand new show. Rosemary Ellen Guiley in the second hour, and reverse speech expert David Oates in the first hour. In the meantime, don't be afraid. There's nothing concealed that won't be revealed, nothing hidden that won't be made known. What you hear in the dark, speak in the light, what I say in a whisper. Proclaim from the housetops. Move over, Aphrodite. I'm coming home. Good night.